Nestled at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, the South Caucasus region has long been a melting pot of cultures, religions, and empires. Central to this region are Armenia and Azerbaijan, two nations whose complex and often tumultuous relationship has deep historical roots. Their tensions, particularly over the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh, have erupted into conflicts that have shaped the geopolitical landscape of the area. Today, we delve into the origins of these tensions, explore the pivotal events that have defined their relationship, and examine the current state of affairs. To grasp the present-day tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan, it's essential to journey back into their shared history. Armenia boasts a rich history dating back to the Kingdom of Urartu in the 9th century BCE. The Armenians, one of the world's oldest civilizations, have a deep-seated cultural and religious heritage, primarily centered around Christianity. Meanwhile, the region that is now Azerbaijan was inhabited by various peoples, including the Caucasian Albanians. Over time, Turkic tribes migrated into the area, significantly influencing its cultural and ethnic makeup. Throughout the centuries, the territories of Armenia and Azerbaijan fell under the control of numerous empires. The Persians, Romans, Byzantines, Arabs, Mongols, Ottomans, and Russians all left their mark. This constant shift in power not only enriched the cultural tapestry of the region, but also introduced divisions that would later fuel nationalistic sentiments. In the 19th century, the Russian Empire expanded into the Caucasus, annexing lands that included modern-day Armenia and Azerbaijan. After the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, both nations briefly tasted independence. However, by the early 1920s, they were incorporated into the Soviet Union. Under Soviet rule, the Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Oblast was established within the Azerbaijan Soviet Socialist Republic, despite its predominantly ethnic Armenian population. This administrative decision planted the seeds for future disputes. Nagorno-Karabakh, referred to as Artsakh by Armenians, is a mountainous enclave with profound cultural and historical significance to both Armenians and Azerbaijanis. The region's ethnic composition has been largely Armenian Christian, contrasting with Azerbaijan's primarily Muslim identity. In the late 1980s, as the Soviet Union's grip weakened, the Armenian majority in Nagorno-Karabakh sought unification with Armenia. Azerbaijan opposed this move, leading to escalating tensions that soon spiraled out of control. The dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991 intensified the conflict. Full-scale war erupted as both newly independent nations vied for control over Nagorno-Karabakh. The war was brutal, marked by fierce battles, atrocities on both sides, and the displacement of hundreds of thousands of civilians. By 1994, Armenian forces had secured not only Nagorno-Karabakh, but also adjacent Azerbaijani territories. A Russian-brokered ceasefire halted the fighting, yet no comprehensive peace agreement was reached. The self-proclaimed Republic of Artsakh remained unrecognized internationally, leaving the region's status in limbo. The ceasefire established in 1994 did little to foster lasting peace. The line of contact separating Armenian and Azerbaijani forces became heavily militarized. Skirmishes, sniper fire, and occasional escalations were common, resulting in ongoing casualties. Diplomatic efforts, primarily through the OSCE Minsk Group, co-chaired by Russia, the United States, and France, aimed to mediate a peaceful resolution. However, deep-seated mistrust and divergent positions on Nagorno-Karabakh's status impeded significant progress. In April 2016, the simmering tensions boiled over into the most severe fighting since the ceasefire. Over 4 days, intense combat involving heavy artillery, tanks, and rocket systems resulted in significant casualties. Both sides accused each other of initiating the hostilities, and a fragile ceasefire was eventually reinstated. But the incident underscored the volatility of the situation. On September 27, 2020, hostilities reignited on a scale not seen in decades. Azerbaijan launched a military offensive to reclaim territories under Armenian control. The conflict was characterized by the use of advanced weaponry, including drones, precision-guided munitions, and long-range missiles. Turkey openly supported Azerbaijan, providing military equipment and training, while reports surfaced of foreign fighters participating in the conflict. The involvement of regional powers added layers of complexity to an already intricate situation. The war had devastating consequences for civilians. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan accused each other of targeting non-combatant populations and infrastructure. Cities and towns beyond the immediate conflict zone suffered shelling and missile strikes. The destruction of homes, schools, and hospitals displaced thousands, creating a humanitarian crisis amid the chaos of war. On November 9, 2020, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia signed a ceasefire agreement to halt the fighting. The terms included a cessation of all hostilities and the return of several districts surrounding Nagorno-Karabakh to Azerbaijani control. Russian peacekeepers were deployed along the new line of contact and the Lachin corridor, the vital link between Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenia. Additionally, the agreement called for the establishment of a transport corridor through Armenia, connecting Azerbaijan to its exclave, Nakhchivan. For Azerbaijan, the agreement was a significant victory, reclaiming much of the territory lost in the early 1990s. For Armenia, it was a bitter defeat, sparking political turmoil and public outcry against Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. The aftermath of the war brought numerous humanitarian challenges to the forefront. Disputes arose over the exchange of prisoners of war and detainees, with allegations of mistreatment and delays in repatriation. The vast number of landmines in the conflict zones posed a persistent danger to returning civilians, necessitating extensive demining efforts. Furthermore, the protection of cultural and religious sites became a contentious issue. Armenians feared for the fate of churches and monuments now under Azerbaijani control, while Azerbaijan accused Armenia of damaging Islamic heritage sites during their occupation. The 2020 defeat led to significant political upheaval in Armenia. Prime Minister Pashinyan faced widespread criticism and mass protests demanding his resignation. Despite the turmoil, he managed to retain power after his party won snap elections in June 2021. Pashinyan's government pledged to implement reforms and bolster Armenia's security apparatus to prevent future conflicts. Emboldened by its military success, Azerbaijan turned its attention to reconstruction in the regained territories. President Ilham Aliyev emphasized plans to rebuild infrastructure, resettle displaced Azerbaijanis, and revitalize the economy of these regions. Showcasing these efforts became a point of national pride and a symbol of Azerbaijan's restored sovereignty over the territories. Russia emerged as a central figure in the conflict's resolution, deploying peacekeepers and maintaining significant influence over both Armenia and Azerbaijan. Russia's strategic interest lies in stabilizing the region while ensuring that both nations remain within its sphere of influence. Its role as a mediator and security guarantor underscores its continued dominance in the South Caucasus. Turkey's support for Azerbaijan during the conflict solidified a strong alliance between the two countries. Turkey's involvement signaled its broader regional ambitions and a willingness to assert itself in the geopolitical landscape of the Caucasus. This shift has the potential to alter power balances and influence future developments in the region. Sharing borders with both Armenia and Azerbaijan, Iran closely monitored the conflict. Iranian officials expressed apprehension over the involvement of external powers, particularly Turkey and Israel, fearing the presence of foreign fighters and shifting alliances near its borders. Iran's complex relationships with its neighbors add another layer to the regional dynamics. Despite the ceasefire, sporadic clashes along the Armenia-Azerbaijan border continued to occur. Incidents in 2021 and 2022 led to casualties and heightened fears of renewed large-scale conflict. Both sides accused each other of provocations, and these skirmishes underscored the fragility of the peace. In late 2022, reports emerged of Azerbaijani activists blocking the Lachin corridor. This corridor is the only land route connecting Nagorno-Karabakh to Armenia, and its obstruction raised serious humanitarian concerns. The blockade threatened the supply of essential goods to the region's Armenian population, exacerbating tensions and drawing international attention. Efforts to negotiate a comprehensive peace agreement continued, with international mediators facilitating discussions. Core issues remained unresolved, including the final status of Nagorno-Karabakh, security guarantees for its ethnic Armenian population, the delineation of international borders, and the opening of regional transportation links. Progress was slow, hampered by deep mistrust and conflicting national interests. The European Union and the United States increased their diplomatic engagement, aiming to prevent further escalation and promote stability. Human rights organizations urged all parties to adhere to international law and protect civilian populations. The international community's involvement highlighted the global implications of the conflict and the need for a sustainable resolution. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan faced serious allegations regarding human rights violations during and after the conflict. Accusations included the mistreatment of prisoners, targeting of civilians, and the use of prohibited weapons. Additionally, issues of censorship and propaganda influenced public perception, with both governments controlling media narratives to bolster nationalistic sentiments. Ethnic Armenians and Azerbaijanis faced discrimination and hostility, both domestically and abroad, further deepening societal divisions. Beyond the geopolitical strategies and military maneuvers lies the profound human cost of the Armenia-Azerbaijan tensions. The conflicts have displaced hundreds of thousands of people over the past decades. Azerbaijani civilians were forced to flee from Nagorno-Karabakh and surrounding regions during the First War, while Armenians left their homes in Azerbaijan amid ethnic violence in the late 1980s and early 1990s. These displaced populations have endured the loss of their homes, communities, and ways of life. Generations on both sides have grown up bearing the scars of conflict. The trauma of losing loved ones, witnessing destruction, and living with uncertainty has left deep psychological impacts. This collective grief often fuels resentment and hinders reconciliation efforts. Achieving lasting peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan requires confronting several daunting challenges. Decades of hostility have eroded mutual trust, making confidence-building measures essential yet difficult to implement. Addressing the humanitarian issues, ensuring the rights and security of all affected populations, and fostering dialogue are critical steps. Economic cooperation presents an opportunity for shared interests to pave the way for improved relations. Joint infrastructure projects and trade agreements could incentivize collaboration and interdependence. Promoting cultural and educational exchanges may help break down stereotypes and build empathy between the two nations. Encouraging people-to-people contacts can challenge entrenched narratives and highlight commonalities rather than differences. International organizations and foreign governments can support peace efforts by providing neutral platforms for dialogue and offering humanitarian assistance. They can help enforce adherence to international law and human rights standards, ensuring accountability and protection for vulnerable populations. Despite the obstacles, there are reasons to hold on to hope for a peaceful future. Younger generations may be more open to reconciliation, desiring a life free from the burdens of past conflicts. Civil society initiatives and non-governmental organizations on both sides are actively working towards peace building and conflict resolution. Increased access to information and global connectivity can challenge nationalistic rhetoric and promote a more nuanced understanding of the issues at hand. The tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan are deeply rooted in a complex tapestry of history, culture, and territorial disputes. The conflicts over Nagorno-Karabakh have brought immense suffering and have had far-reaching implications for regional stability. Yet, the desire for peace and a better future persists among many on both sides. By acknowledging past grievances and committing to genuine dialogue, there is a pathway toward healing and coexistence. The international community's support, combined with grassroots efforts and the willingness of leaders to make courageous decisions, can help turn the page on this protracted conflict. Understanding the Armenia-Azerbaijan tensions requires empathy and a willingness to see beyond entrenched positions. Encouraging conversations that promote peace and supporting initiatives aimed at reconciliation are vital. The journey toward lasting peace may be arduous, but every effort brings us closer to a future where cooperation replaces conflict and hope triumphs over hostility.